Oh, let me tell y'all a story about a man called Ted. He loves the multiplayer gaming podcast. He liked it so much he now supports the show. He got some extra content now. He's having a blast. Hey guys, Michael here. If you're enjoying the content you get on this podcast, consider being like Ted. You can support the show and get bonus content by going over to multiplayersquad.com. We're an independent podcast, and we'd sure appreciate it. Now, on to the show.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Multiplayer Gaming Podcast. Today is Thursday, so it's time to discuss This Week in Gaming, where we break down recent gaming news. Please take a couple of seconds to rate us 5 stars and leave a written review. It really helps our show out. And if you like what we do here and want more content, the genie of the podcast has you covered and has granted your wish. Just head over to multiplayersquad.com where you can join us on Patreon and you'll get access to the Squadcast, which releases the first and third Tuesday of every month. I am your host, Paul, and I am joined today by my 2 gaming brothers in crime. First up, he doesn't care if he can fly straight from a planet into space, and I know this because Todd Howard told me it's not important to him. It's Josh.
2 things. Number 1, I don't care, and which we'll talk about here in a little bit. And then number 2, that genie of the podcast is one handsome fella.
He is handsome, and I believe a few people said he was their favorite host of the podcast.
I think so. Yes, for sure. That genie is awesome. It's
only fitting that we bring him back up. All right, and then joining us, he's about to go broke in Overwatch 2. Yes, you did hear me right. Even though Overwatch 2 is free to play, he's about to go on a spending spree using the in-game store. It's Michael.
What do I get? What do I get with all this sweet cash? It's not loot boxes, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes, I guess. Give me the skins, please. It's Fortnite 2.0.
Exactly. All right. Before we talk about gaming news, we do want to talk about an exciting community event that's going to be coming up here soon.
Oh, yeah.
Josh, tell the people what they can come join us for.
So we like to do these community events from time to time. We have been slacking a little bit. Life has just been busy, but it is something that we try to do in the Discord server. We've played Among Us before. We've played Jackbox Party with all our listeners and stuff like that. So it's just a great time. But what we are going to do is we are going to have a trivia night, which is going to be a blast. It's going to be video game based trivia. And that's going to take place on July 1st at 6 p.m. Pacific time, which is 9 p.m. Eastern time for you East Coast people. If you are overseas, I'm sorry, I don't know what time that is. Probably pretty late. But we would love to have anybody and everybody join us. You can join our Discord server. It'll take place inside the Discord server. And we are going to be giving away a pretty cool prize to the winner of the trivia as well, which is a wireless SteelSeries Stratus XL controller.
Yep.
This thing is awesome. It's fully programmable. It works with PC consoles. It's awesome, man. So we're giving away a really cool prize as well. So if you want the invite to the Discord server, if you are not already a part of it, it is going to be in the episode description. So just scroll down a little bit, or it's on our website at multiplayerpodcast.com.
So 2 things here. First of all, that SteelSeries products, all of them are awesome. I use the SteelSeries headset. I love it. I've loved it. I love their controller. I had one of those for a while. Second thing, I love how Josh just basically claimed essentially that the rest of the world outside of the continental U.S. is all in just one time zone. He's like, I don't know what time it is for you guys.
I said they'll have to figure that out.
One time zone. Like the rest of you.
My daughter's friend is in Latvia, and I'm pretty sure they're 9 hours difference
Shout out to
over
Latvia.
there. And so, it's Frosty Donkey is in Scotland.
Yeah,
right.
Same time zone as Latvia.
We've got lots. We've got lots of listeners and friends of the show in other countries. I just don't know what time zone you're in. It gets weird. They start using different letters like GMT and UTCs, and I don't know, man. We do things different in America. So
I'm confused.
Yeah, the trivia night should be a lot of fun, and all 3 of us are planning to log in. We're going to be in a voice channel, and so you guys can come join there. And then as we go through the different quiz questions, we might jump in and talk a little bit as well. I think it'll be a lot of fun. My guess is it's going to be somewhere around like 30 to 45 minutes, relatively short.
Yeah, we're going to try to
totally
keep it short.
free.
Yep. And if you're not a voice chat, there's no obligation to do that. It actually is, the trivia is going to take place in the text channel. So if you are a lurker, if you are somebody that prefers to not chat, that is A-okay. This event will be just great for you as well.
Yeah, in fact, Paul, Josh, and I are only hopping into voice chat to troll everyone with their wrong answers.
That's true, too.
And it is multiple choice. So even if you feel like you don't know a whole lot about gaming, you will have a chance no matter what, because it's, multiple choice. It's not like a type in the answer kind of quiz night. All right. So last week we ended our Twig episode talking about Starfield, and we have to bring it up again here at the beginning of this show because there's just been so much news, so many more announcements about the content ever since we got the trailer at the game's showcase. And we ended up with a total of 4 Starfield stories in our shared doc. So just really quick here, we learned that Starfield has more handcrafted content than any previous Bethesda game. We learned the campaign is going to be 30 to 40 hours long, which is a little bit longer than Skyrim. We learned that the protagonist will not have a voice. And we also learned that you cannot fly from planet to space or from space to planet directly. Todd Howard said that he believed it just wasn't that important to players. So what are your guys' reactions? What do you want to talk about?
Let me ask you guys this. How important is it to you to be in your spaceship, see a planet, fly towards the planet, penetrate the atmosphere, go down, find a landing spot all seamlessly? Or is it really important to you guys?
I don't know. I thought it would be important to me, and then I think about it, and I'm like, it seems like a lot of time that we'd be doing, like if it's just like you said, you just described the whole thing, going all the way down, getting in there. And I'm like, I want seamless. I really do as a gamer, but at the expense of them having to develop that part for longer, spend tons of money, I'd rather see them spend the efforts in other parts of the game, to be honest. It's something that would be cool the first couple of times I do it. Yeah. And then after that, I'd probably just forget that I'm seeing this experience, and I'm fine with just the snap down to the planet.
What about you, Paul?
I don't know. That was like my favorite part of No Man's Sky.
Now,
it really lends to the immersion when you just point your ship in the air and take off. I think Star Citizen has the same kind of system.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so the fact that it's not in Starfield is a little bit of a bummer. It's not like a game-breaking thing, but I am a little disappointed. I feel like it would have been really cool if they had it.
I think it would have been cool. Like, I don't think anybody would have minded if that feature existed. The thing that bugs me is I'm seeing... Like, man, I feel maybe it's just social media. I'd like to think that gamers are not quite that cynical, but it's just on social media. But it really seems like people really have their feathers ruffled over this like non-seamless transition to planets. And I get what Todd Howard's saying, and I'm not trying to defend Todd Howard because that guy, I'm still mad at that guy for lying to us about Fallout 76. You know what I mean? But it's one of these things where I get what he's saying, where he's saying it's not that important. That feature is not going to change the game one way or the other, in my opinion. Would it have been cool? Yes, it would. And No Man's Sky, you're right. It did it very, very well in that regard. Honestly, there's probably a way where you could just hide a loading screen to make it look like you're traveling through the atmosphere of the planet, and then it's really just loading the planet, which I think No Man's Sky probably is actually doing in just a creative way. But it's just weird to me that I'm seeing so much backlash from gamers over this minor thing, man. Like, I don't get it. I don't care about it personally. I don't think it's going to change the game at all. Would it be neat? Yes. But am I going to get upset that it doesn't exist? Like, no. But man, there's a lot of people out there that seem very upset by this.
Yeah, I think the whole point of it, too, is that they're obviously using 2 very different systems for flight and for ground combat and quests and so on and so forth. And they probably just don't mesh seamlessly. And to make it happen, like, I get that No Man's Sky does it, but that's a totally different kind of game, And so I understand why people are upset about this, but is it really that big of a deal? I don't think so. Would it be nice? Sure. Is it going to break the game for me? Not at all.
Right.
Yeah, in some ways, I kind of feel like it was the straw that broke the camel's back because I wasn't crazy about the combat and the gunplay and the dogfighting and the facial animations.
Right.
And all of a sudden now there's some features that are in other space games that aren't in Starfield. So I think for me, I've really reined in my expectations on Starfield. Whereas I was like, dude, I'm betting on this for being like game of the year. Now I think I'm just going to scale it back into being like, the potential is there. Maybe it'll be great, but I'm not expecting it to be a masterpiece.
Not me.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. I'm still wearing rose-colored glasses, like, so much. I'm so excited about this game. And actually, speaking on that other piece of news real fast about the length of the game, I looked at it and I'm like, oh no, it's only 30 to 40 hours. That seems short. And then I looked up other Bethesda games and I'm like, oh, well, Skyrim was 33 and a half hours. Fallout New Vegas was 27 and a half hours. Fallout 4 was 28 hours-ish. And I'm like, so this is actually a little bit longer. So I'll take it. I'm actually excited about it. Yeah.
I think the main thing, and Paul, I can sympathize with you on this. And while I don't think I share quite the same sentiment on it, I think what people are getting a little upset about is when we finally got this big reveal, right? Like the reason we're talking about Starfield again is because, let's be honest, people were hoping that this is going to be the biggest release of 2022. Yeah. And so that's why we're talking about it again. But I think where people are starting to sour a little bit is this game has been in development forever, it seems like. And we've had very, very little news. So we finally got news, and this game was supposed to release very soon. It got pushed back a little bit, not too long. But now we're starting to see where some corners have been cut. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think that's like the peek behind the curtain, is because the expectation was this game's going to be incredible. It's going to be so well developed, blah, blah, blah. Oh, but you can't fly down to a planet. I mean, okay. Oh, but you don't have a voice in the game. Well, why not? That's kind of a thing lately, it still uses the same old Bethesda facial animations and characters. I mean, I feel like I'm playing the Forgotten City, because that pulls from, a Bethesda mod or engine. So it's one of those things where it's like, well, wait a minute. If you guys are cutting these corners in these aspects of the game, and the demo that we saw was slightly janky, it wasn't the most impressive demo out there. And I think that's the general feeling that some people are starting to get. I personally don't have that feeling very much, but I can definitely relate to why some people are taking everything all together and going, wait a minute, are we just going to get another buggy mess with a new IP?
Yeah, and we'll just have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, and that's what kind of gets me too. Is final comment on this whole thing for me is, I'm still super excited about it. But Josh, you're totally right. This game has been in development for so long, and there's still, like, in the last 3 months, all we've really talked about is now issues. We haven't talked about something that blew our minds great looking. It was, hey, we got the gameplay video. It looked great. Like, it looked great, but then the facial animations, the AI was messed up. There was just so many things. I mean, they straight copied the shit from Prometheus. Totally kidding there. But I mean, the whole thing is like, it's how much longer would this game have needed to be, like, another year, maybe, to where we're watching all this stuff and being like, wow, yes. And now I'm sitting here with these rose-tinted glasses because I have so much hope for Bethesda's new IP. But then quickly people are doing the same way that Paul's doing, where it's like, I don't know, I'm tempered a little bit on this.
Just cooled slightly. Not
that's a
cold
good thing.
On it. Just
that's
a little
good
cooler.
thing, though, because the lower the expectations, that's probably actually a good thing to go into it with.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. All right, next up on the docket, I'm excited to talk about this one. All right, give me some of that other fresh IP, right? Let's talk about Evil West for a little bit. Now, This is an upcoming cowboy shooter that takes place in a fantasy Weird West setting. And this is set for release very soon. This is coming out on September 20th of this year. I feel like it's really flying under the radar. It has a $50 price tag. And I think this has potential of being one of those surprising gems here at the end of 2022.
Have we heard of this game in the past? Because I feel like the name sounds vaguely familiar, but maybe I'm confusing it with like Weird West or Evil Dead or something like that, right. Where it's like, these... But I watched the gameplay on this, and I was like, where has this game been? How am I not more familiar with this game? I don't know that we've covered this in the past, have we?
No. I don't think so. And we got 10 minutes of gameplay footage from IGN. And as soon as I started watching, I got pretty excited. So I was curious as to what you guys thought about this one.
I'm amped. I'm absolutely amped. I watched the beginning of that video, and I was like, at first I was like, oh, it kind of looks like Bethesda a little bit, moving around. I'm like, no, it looks like Rockstar. And then it was like, no, it just looks awesome. Like the details, the graphics were great. I loved the gunplay in it, the different abilities the guy's using when he's like using this electric gun, and he's like, you can see the skeletons inside the guys, and he's bashing them around and stuff in the boss fight. I had never heard of this game, and now it is instantly on my radar as a top must play for me. I have to play this game. It looks like it's right up my alley.
The biggest vibes I got from this were God of War,
100% God of War,
meets Remnant from the Ashes.
Oh yeah,
it's honestly the combination that, because there's a lot of gunplay, so it looks like it has similar gunplay to Remnant from the Ashes, which you guys know I love. I know Paul wasn't the biggest fan of that, but I absolutely love that game.
Well, this one's more than one color. It's not all reddish
okay,
brown.
yes, that's true. That's true. And then meets God of War because it's got that like really meaty, over the top action. I mean, this guy's got a rifle, he's got a pistol, he's got some giant mechanical hand thing, a la Doomfist almost.
Right.
And this guy goes ham on these things, and he's fighting vampires and monsters. It's very, very reminiscent to me of that in-your-face, over-the-top God of War combat. And you guys know how I feel about God of War. So my excitement levels for Evil West are very high as well. I just don't know if I've had a chance to actually get hyped because this is the first I've seen of this game.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, like vampires, so like all the evil things. He's fighting all the evil things. I was surprised because the video starts off with like Old West, like you'd think. He's shooting pistols, he's shooting rifles, and then all of a sudden it swaps and he gets in close combat, and the guy's doing tons of melee, which really surprised me about this. And I'm like, oh, and he's doing different combo moves and different attacks and stuff. Like it's a lot more layered than, you know how it is in most cowboy games. You use your guns exclusively. If you're using melee, you're probably in a desperate fight where you're out of ammo and you're going to die. This one, it seems like the melee is just as important as using your guns long range, which I was actually really excited. You're totally right, Josh. Very God of War. Even the movements, now that I think about it, like the way he's walking, is very Kratos. The dodging, the rolling, and even just the walking. Like I was like, this looks really good.
Even more than that, he punches through treasure chests to open them exactly like Kratos
I almost
does.
wonder if they didn't purchase or license some of the code, because there is some very similar like animations and stuff like that.
There's vines that are covering like a hidden treasure chest, and he burns it with like a flamethrower, and the way it all just like disintegrates in the air looked exactly like God of War.
Yeah.
But I think it's like in a really good way. It does not come across as any kind of like God of War ripoff, because you're a cowboy and it's in a completely different setting. And they say that it has a story, dialogue driven storyline, but then the action looks fantastic. I love when games have gunplay, but then it also includes like exposing weak spots on the enemy, and then you focus those areas and you're swapping between different guns. The way that he punches a guy in the air and then fans the hammer looks so incredible.
There's so many cool things. There's one where they show like weapon skill trees and character skill trees and stuff like that. So this seems like it's going to be fully fleshed out. But there's one part where he unlocks some electrical ability, and it's later in the 10-minute demo, but he can basically scorpion an enemy to him with that, where he it's like a taser that goes out and then he yanks it and pulls the character in, uppercuts them into the air, fans the hammer, jumps up, smashes them. The monster goes flying, smashes into a boss that he's fighting, does a ton of damage to the boss. Like, this combat looks legit. This is way more than just aiming your pistol at something and pulling the trigger.
Guys, I just read something real fast, which, by the way, actually, before I read what I just read, because I was looking up, like, hey, I'm just curious, because we just talked about Starfield and how long it's going to be. Like, how long is the main campaign in Evil West? It didn't give me an answer, but it did give me something else I want to read. But one question I had watching the demo, I'm like, can we turn down the blood spatter a little bit? Because, like, when he's punching these guys, they're, like, exploding blood everywhere. It almost looks like some of the mods you have.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't mind over the top.
Yeah, it's definitely over the top. But remember Spartacus, that TV show from the other day? It looks
that,
like
on
over the
Stars.
top. Yeah. But here's what I accidentally pulled up. It says, will Evil West have a co-op? And it says, rise up to become a Wild West superhero.
Sure does.
Eradicate the vampire threat and save the United States. In this visceral, explosive combat, unleash hell with your firearms, lightning-fueled gauntlets and gadgets, kill bloodthirsty monstrosities in the style as a lone hunter or in a co-op with a friend. It is now a 20. It's a 20. I gotta play it right now. It has co-op.
This is co-op campaign?
Yes, it is.
Oh, man.
And we saw big bosses, like being able to fight those big
yeah.
bosses, long battles with a friend.
Well, and they do show
this
the
one looks
two
great.
characters. That was they showed in the demo. They showed two characters that are talking a lot. So I bet you get to play as both of them. Wow. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'm even more hyped now. I had no idea there was co-op in this.
Yeah, I'm amped. I'm amped so much.
Yeah, I think the last thing I wanted to mention is as soon as you start watching the demo, the power of the guns and the melee hits, they really pack a punch. Like it's got that deep
them.
bass and it feels like like the screen kind of shakes at the perfect way that everything seems to have a lot of weight and a ton of power. These are not dinky weapons by any means.
Well, one of the first things I looked at, because when I was watching this video, I thought about the last video we watched, which was the Starfield demo. I instantly was watching this demo looking for the AI, and I'm like, oh, cool, the AI are smart. We're good.
They take
ducking
cover
behind
and stuff.
barrels and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, good. We're good.
Oh man, so funny. My only complaint when I was watching the gameplay is I was like, man, these graphics aren't that great. Somehow my YouTube was set to like 480p.
480?
Yeah, and then I put it on 4K and I was like, oh no, this game's actually beautiful. For a second I
Graphics
thought
are
maybe
really
it was
good.
like cheaper classic style graphics or something,
Right.
but
I will
no, it
say,
does look great.
I did have one actual complaint on the
Don't
demo.
say it. Don't say it.
It's
You're going to break
that
my heart.
Every interactable thing, like the chains or the paths that they're trying to highlight for you, they have like a white glow or like a pulsing light on them, and it's everywhere though. And I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, y'all need to tone that down. Like, we're not that dumb. Like, I can figure out where I'm supposed to go. You know, God of War did that with the white paint or the yellow paint, right? Like on some ledges to say, hey, you can climb up here if you want, but it was very non-obtrusive. This just has this crazy white shimmer. But at one point, the guy's standing on a ledge walking out into an area, and you see like 20 of them. And I'm like, guys, come on. Like, you got to tone that down a little bit.
I wonder if maybe like, because I've seen games where like in easier modes they try to reveal a lot more, and if you're playing on like a harder or hardest mode, it doesn't show you that stuff. Maybe it has an option for that, which
hope
would be
so.
nice. Because don't spoon every.
It was pretty
Once an
distracting.
episode, I can't talk. Once an episode, I can't talk. Don't spoon feed everything to me. I want to figure it out on my own sometimes.
Oh, all right. So Overwatch 2, we got a little bit of news here this week. We knew that the game was going to be free to play. We didn't exactly know how it would be monetized. We did have some educated guesses. Those all turned out to be right. Overwatch 2, while being free for the PvP for everybody, there will be seasonal battle passes that you can buy, and there will also be an in-game store for cosmetic items. There will no longer be the loot box system in Overwatch 1. I'm assuming Josh and I couldn't care less. This works perfect for us. It's totally free. We're not going to drop any money on the in-game store, more than likely. I assume you're with me on this one, Josh?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the fact that I was going to buy Overwatch 2 just for the PvP. Now,
Sure.
I mean, until we see more about the PvE aspect, I'm kind of like pass unless it's for the podcast on the PvE portion.
Yeah.
So if you're giving me the PvP, which is all I care about anyway, for free, and cosmetics are the way that you're going to monetize things, this is perfect for me. I'm not going to spend any money. I get to have great PvP experience and play Overwatch 2 with my friends. So I think that's great. Michael is probably the person that they're targeting a little bit more with now having a seasonal pass and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I mean, I definitely have been guilty of buying some loot boxes in the past, but most of the time that was typically during like the holiday events where I'm like, I won't get this skin for my favorite character if I don't get this loot box now. And so what'll probably happen is they'll probably have holiday stuff, like you said, seasonal passes, where it's like, hey, you can get the Santa outfit for Tracer if you buy it now and you can never get it again later. And that's where they hook me typically. That's where they get my money.
I will say this. I'm not normally a fan of season passes and this, monetization type model that a lot of these games try to use, but they did throw in the fact that because they're using this model, that they will be able to do more frequent updates to the game. They'll be able to release characters on a regular, consistent basis. because it's a free-to-play game, and every time they do something, guess what? They're going to make a lot of money, because when you release a new character, now everybody's going to want to buy the skins for that character, and so on and so forth. So they really tried to sell it from the aspect of, because this is going to be free-to-play, and because we're going to have seasons that last, they did confirm each season's going to last 9 weeks, that they will be able to provide much more regular updates to the game. Now, I'm all for that. Everybody knows that when a new character came out in Overwatch, people that quit playing always came back to try out the new character.
True.
That kind of stuff. So while I think the little bit of that is just salesmanship on their end to try to explain why they're moving to this model, if it's true, I do think that that's a big benefit to the game as a whole.
Yeah, and I do like an in-game store as opposed to loot boxes anyway, where if I want that outfit, or I want that voice line, or I want that spray, I just get to buy it. The whole idea of buying a chance to get the item you want has never been ideal to me. We all know it's really no different than gambling. So I'm definitely more in favor of an in-game store. Maybe I'll drop a buck or two if there's a really annoying voice line that I know you guys are going to hate.
That would be worth it, though.
I might go out of my way for that. That's the only thing I might want to spend money on.
No, and you're totally right, though, about having a chance to get something. Ultimately, that's why I stopped playing Lost Ark, which I loved Lost Ark, was I hated the fact that I've got to spend pretty much real-life money to increase a percentage chance that I'm going to upgrade my character's stats. And I'm like, this is just broken. I don't want to do this anymore. And so while loot boxes are fun if they're given to you for free, because every time you got another level or whatever in the game, there was all those milestones where you get, here's 5 free loot boxes, and it's fun to open them. But I would much rather just go be like, I want this skin. I'll spend $3 on this skin because I want it. It's better.
Well, we are down to our last story of the week. We're going to talk a little bit about Epic Games Store, which, by the way, I think still has an unfair reputation with a certain subsection of gamers where some people really, really hate it. It's fine. Epic Games Store, they give you free games. Like, what's not to like? But they finally implemented a system where gamers can now rate games that they buy, and they can also answer poll questions. And so previously in Epic Games Store, you can see all the games, but there's no user feedback. And a lot of times I would go to Steam or Metacritic and look up these games and then make an informed decision if I want it or not. And so Epic Games Store has finally put it into place, but it has a little bit of a twist. What they are essentially doing is if you own a game and you have played it a total of 2 hours or more, every time you close the game, there is a chance that they might give you a chance to rate it or to answer a couple of poll questions. And this is a pretty unique twist on how to do this.
Guys, we're talking cutting edge technology here. The ability to leave a review on a video game so that fellow gamers know whether it's worth their money? How has nobody thought about this before?
Amazon should add a rating system or something.
Kudos to Epic Games Store, man, for really coming up with this idea.
Guys, we're in the future. It's the future. It's,
I mean, let's be honest. I laughed when I saw this because I just went like, what took you so long?
Right.
I mean, Steam has been doing this since Steam was around, as far as that goes. But I will say, good on you, Epic Games Store, because this is something that gamers care about. I legitimately was looking at a game, Darkest Dungeon 2, that I was on the Epic Games Store, and I saw where it said available now, and I played the first Darkest Dungeon. I went, whoa, I didn't know the second one was out yet. And it's not, it's just early access. But then I wanted to see what the people in early access were thinking. And there was no reviews, and I completely forgot that Epic Games Store didn't even do that. So then I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, man. So then I went to Steam, and it was like, okay, well, let me read the reviews on this game. So it will help the platform a lot. I'm with you, Paul. I don't have anything against Epic Games Store versus Steam. That's like kind of saying PlayStation versus Xbox. It's like, dude, just let people be happy and play what they want to play. I do think that this will drastically improve the user experience for people that do use the Epic Games Store, though.
Well, and it's interesting too for like us. Whenever we rate, we do a deep dive on an Epic Games Store game. We have to use Metacritic and guess what the Metacritic was or whatever instead of using the rating system. I think the polls are interesting. The examples they give on the homepage, one of them is like Rocket League, and it's a poll that says, "Is this game better to play with a team? Yes or no?" Yes. I think that's kind of a cool way to do it. Yeah, right. I mean, let's give a more more
Yeah.
exact example. It's funny because their example is yes, 56%. No, 44%. It's like that would not. It'd be like yes, 92%.
Yeah, 98%.
Yeah, and the 8% of people who don't think it's good to play as a team are probably just trolls or something. I know, but I think it's an interesting idea. I would like to see the ability to leave an actual review, which would be cool as opposed to just a rating, because I didn't see that. Do they have that? Or is it just
you
a
can
rating?
actually leave
You can leave a review.
Yeah, you leave your rating and then you can write the review on top of that.
Well,
So that's nice.
you guys know what this fixes,
It
right?
fixes review bombing.
Can't review bomb
and
because
see-
you have to be selected
yeah.
randomly.
That is the best thing about all of this, in my opinion, is that you have to actually buy the game and play the game for at least 2 hours, which, let's all be honest, that's past the refund window, right? Like, there's a reason that
Right.
they say the 2 hour thing, but these are going to all be legitimate reviews from people that have played the game. I think you're 100% right, Paul, in that this fixes review bombing, which you guys know is one of my pet peeves. Unless a game deserves it. If it deserves it, fine. Give it the rating that it deserves. But I do like that they're taking that route with it.
Yeah, I think it's a really clever idea because if you're a game store making money for every game you sell, putting in a rating system is a little scary because if a game gets rated low, people stop buying it, right?
Right.
And this is kind of like a very clever business way where it's going to trend to more positive reviews overall. Because guess who are the people who are going to be closing this game the most? The people who are playing it the most. They probably like it. They're more likely to be asked to leave a review. So I think overall we're going to see pretty high scores on all of their games, but it will definitely prevent that kind of review bombing. So it might not be a perfect system, but I do think that it's a very clever approach to it. I'll probably still end up looking up reviews also on Steam or Metacritic to get an overall view, but at least it'll have something built in for those Epic Game Store exclusives.
Yeah, and I think the review bombers, it's kind of a skewed metric because people that want to complain about things are typically louder than people who are just lukewarm or like something, or even some people that love something. And so I think there's a lot more review bombers than there is actually people who don't like the game because there's a technical issue or something like that. So I really do think this does, it, like you said, Paul, it does kind of fix that problem. And again, people that are playing it more are going to close it more, and they're going to get a chance to get a review more often. So it's actually a pretty smart move. And it's also really smart because they finally let us review things.
I don't know about you guys, but I'll take 100 legitimate reviews from people that have played a game over 1,000 reviews where anybody can say anything they want. If I know
100%.
those 100 reviews are actual legitimate people that have played this game and are giving their thoughts on it, I will lean that direction over here's 1,000 reviews, but anybody can say anything they want, whether they have 2 minutes in this game or not. So I do like that it's going to lean more towards that, hey, these are actually accurate reviews on this game. So I think they're implementing it in a very good way.
Fully
agree. Yeah, and it's 2022, so it's about time to have at least some kind of system.
It's the future.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are done covering This Week in Gaming. As a reminder, if you want to come join us for that community event that's coming up on July 1st, come join our Discord server. That link's in the episode description. We'd love to have you there for game night, and you could get a free SteelSeries controller. So many nice things to say about SteelSeries, and they are not a sponsor. We really do love their stuff, and you'll get an awesome controller. And then our next deep dive will be Nier Automata, which we're going to be covering next week. And I know that we're very excited to hop into that one. So one last time, just to plug our Patreon page, come visit multiplayersquad.com. Anybody who pledges on any tier gets bonus content like the Squadcast. We'd love to have you guys join us on there. And also come follow us on socials everywhere at Multiplayer Pod. All right. Awesome. Anything else, guys? I think we covered it all.
I'd say go check out Evil West gameplay. This came out of nowhere for us, at least. And honestly, take a look at the gameplay because I love a surprise game that looks this good already. And I'm trying to get that hype train rolling.
Very nice. All right. Well, thanks so much to everyone for listening. We'll see you all on Saturday for our next quick take, and then on Monday for that deep dive of Nier Automata. And happy gaming until then.
All right. See you, everybody.
All right, cheers, mates. I don't know where that came from.
That was bad.
Bye, guys.